Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please put your hands together for the ultimate podcast extravaganza. If you've ever listened to a podcast, throw it away because this podcast episode is going to be the best you have ever listened to, and you will get the most value and the most inspiration to follow your dreams out of any episode, any podcast, any piece of content in the history of content. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the ultimate podcast with Gabe and Jeremy.
On the Nomad Solopreneur Show. Let's freaking go. So happy to have you, man, on the show.
But yeah, it's been a while. It's super excited to be here. And it's pretty surreal. I met you 2022 in Chiang Mai, and we're both digital nomads traveling the world. I've been traveling the world for on and off for 8 years now.
How many countries?
Over 50 countries so far.
Man, that's impressive. I'm still half from that.
Only 25.
2 more, 27. But yeah, I stopped chasing countries at some point and just going back to same locations where I felt the best, where I enjoy more, and so on. But how do you pick yours?
I'm in the same space. I started out I started my European travels when I was 8 years ago, as I said. And I started going from country to country. And I was like, whoa, there are some amazing cultures and countries out there. And it's interesting how out of sight, out of mind, because I haven't been to all these amazing countries, I didn't know they existed. And once I got a taste of what's out there, I was like, whoa, what else is out there? And it's just, I feel like there's so many parallels to like my line of work, which is I didn't think it was possible to follow my dreams and travel the world. I didn't think it was possible to be very confident. I didn't think it was possible to have this energy of I'm lovable. I bring value everywhere I go. I am worth so much. I'm capable of having all these amazing connections and people who love me for my like most expressive self. And yeah, it's just like sometimes I would go in default. Like the default mode sometimes is not being satisfied. I know I'm kind of going off a beautiful little tangent there. But yeah, I started, like it was my dream. As you answer your question, I started out because I was kind of just going randomly. And then during the pandemic, I did a project where I challenged myself to have a video call with someone in every single country in the world. And on video call, yeah. So I ended up talking to humans from over 100 countries on video call. And I created a collection of powerful, deep questions with a bunch of TED speakers. And I would ask every single person I talked to in all these different countries, Afghanistan, Yemen, everywhere. And it was just so beautiful. I just met so many amazing people in so many different countries. It's to answer your question. Once I was able to travel a little bit, it's like 2021. It was still a little bit locked down, which honestly I loved it because things were a lot cheaper, and I think all the touristy spots weren't very crowded. Long story short, I started visiting the people that I met virtually in person.
Man, that's nice.
That's how it started.
And what you found out about that because the online interaction is one thing, but after you met online and see that person face to face, how many of those individuals were actually the same, like the one that you envisioned through the conversation that you had online?
I just want to say like almost all of them are the same. Out of this challenge, I didn't just have one conversation with them. I started a huge global community called Join Team Human. And with Join Team Human, I had a team of founders, and we had 3 parts of it. We had the platform where you can create your content and get support and whatever your passions are. And then there was the second section was like the filmmaking aspect. I got a team of filmmakers from around the world, never met each other. We came together and joined in on our creativity and expression and created a documentary, which is still out there on the Join Team Human Instagram. And then this third part is events. Like we actually had events weekly where we'd have dancing around the world events. So that one was really cool. Humans from around the world would have a big dance party, and we had a shared Spotify playlist where everyone would put their favorite dance music from wherever country they're from. and it was on random. So it was like so beautiful. So like it should be shuffling, and then someone from one country would hear their song they put on there, and then they'd do their little dance. It'd be like Peru or Chile or whatever it be, and they do like their Latin's like beauty. And then it switched to someone who lives in like Egypt, and they're like, "Oh shit, I put this in here." It was just such a beautiful experience. And so we have like weekly calls because it's COVID. We are not doing anything. If I was doing the dishes, I'm like, "Hey, who wants to jump on a quick video call and hang out while I do the dishes?" And then like I'd have like people from 8 different countries on the call with me as I'm just doing the dishes. And I just felt so connected. And I just, as someone who felt so disconnected, to kind of go into the juiciness, someone who felt so disconnected from myself and so disconnected from the people around me, it was like Disneyland on steroids. Like it was just such a magical, like beautiful experience to know that I can be so connected to the people around me on such a beautiful, heart-centered way. Because there's just so many studies that are done on human connection, and we're meant to be connected, like in tribes. We're meant to do it. Yet studies show we're getting more and more disconnected. The amount of connections, close connections we have as time has gone on is going lower and lower. We used to have 3 to 5 close friends. Now we're lucky to have one good friend.
Yeah, that's sadly true. And unfortunately, technology has a role here, apart from the fact that it's addictive and we prefer to see others online and interact with others through messages rather than calling them or jumping on a video call and stuff like that. But before diving a bit deeper into that, I want to ask you something. How did you actually went from that position in which you didn't believe that you will follow your dream or live your dreams and feel disconnected to actually living your life at fullest? How
So
was that transition? Because a lot of people struggle being trapped in that mindset that I cannot follow my dream, I don't fulfill my life, and so on.
great question. A lot of people have this, like, feel stuck, and that's like kind of a story that they create. And every time you say I feel stuck, you're actually feeding that belief system, right? So to answer your question, I hit rock bottom. I was super depressed. It was like 20 years ago or so. I was super depressed. I was still like such a vivid memory. I'm crying on the floor. I'm on the carpet. I was saying to myself, I'm so tired of being me. And I was crying my eyes out. I'm so tired of being me. I wish I was someone else. I don't want to be alive. And it was really heavy. And then that's when I hit this rock bottom moment of, I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to be this way. I want to make a change, and I'll do whatever it takes to make that change. And like a part of me did want to be happy. A part of me did want to connect with people on a real level, but I just think I could in that moment. And it comes down to like worthiness, feeling like I was worthy or capable of my dreams, worthy of deeper connections with people. So I want to, from there on, I went on my journey of just trying to, or putting energy into figuring out how I can be happier and how I can love myself and how I can feel more confident. And I had a really severe social anxiety, as I said earlier. And I just like, how can I have less social anxiety? I was just desperate, to be honest. So I was like, I'll try anything and anything to get out of this state that I was in, which was grueling. I'm not trying to like be in like a victim mindset. I wasn't a victim mindset, but I'm not sharing this to be like a victim, which is kind of, so yeah, I did everything. I did a lot of social challenges. I've done free hugs around the world. I used to make a video. I took on a challenge of doing a video challenge. Making a video with a stranger every single day. And then I got featured on the news for it, which was not the goal for it. I've done all sorts of trainings, like how can I reprogram my brain? I was like, is it possible? Can I be confident if I'm not confident? I did a bunch of research. I looked it up online, and I was just doing so much research, watching all sorts of videos on people who reprogram their subconscious to be confident, to be happy. I was like, I'll do whatever it takes. And it was really hard. And I chose to process a lot of the traumas that were causing me to have these old belief systems that were no longer serving me. And a lot of the way I talk about it with my coaching clients is like our brains, it's always upgrading hardware, obviously, because as we age, but at the same time, the software a lot of the times does not automatically update. So I realized, to kind of give the metaphor, I was running on Windows 95 when it was 2000 whatever, and I chose to go in and be like, all right, what are the belief systems I have that are making me so unhappy? And I got real with myself, and I accepted where I was at first. Like the first step in self-love is self-acceptance. So I ended up processing the belief systems that were causing us. For example, I remember when I was in middle school, I was bullied really badly. And I realized I had the belief system that no one likes me. And the interesting part is, as awful as no one likes me as a belief system is on the surface, it actually helped me in that moment. And you're like, what? What do you mean? How does it help you? So if I have the belief system that no one likes me, then I don't put myself out there to connect with anyone. And if I don't put myself out there to connect with anyone, then I don't get rejected. And I wasn't in a space to handle rejection. So the belief system of no one likes me was keeping me safe, right? However, years go on and I'm in community college and now I got to network and meet people and connect people to deeper level, and it's not no longer serving me. So then I ended up, there's obviously emotions that are attached to belief systems. I don't know if you've seen Inside Out, I talk about the belief systems. So I have different emotions based off the belief system. So yeah, to kind of give a long tangent, I chose to go head on with traumas from being bullied, of traumas from like my oldest brother who was on the spectrum. He beat me up pretty intensely because he didn't know how to handle himself. He took it out on me. And so I took on belief systems of I'm a punching bag and took that into middle school. So I'm a punching bag. So I didn't set boundaries because I just had the belief system that I'm a punching bag. Fast forward, there's moments where I chose to go head on with the trauma. So for example, I've done a lot of primary integration trainings and how to lead transformational circles. And one process I did, I was in like a men's group in a garage, and I was supposed to go on a second date with a girl and she flaked on me. And I was so angry and I was just overwhelmed with anger. The interesting part is, deep down, I actually wasn't into her. However, I was so angry from her quote unquote rejection, it didn't make sense, but did it? I then went to this men's group and they asked me, like, if you were to work on something, what would you work on? And in the moment I said, I wouldn't want to work on why I got so uncontrollably, overwhelmingly angry when this girl said I don't want to hang out with you on a second date. So I went into it. The facilitator said, like, how does it make you feel? I'm like, angry, obviously. And then he's all right, feel that anger. And I was like, uncomfortable. So I've had a very uncomfortable relationship with my anger. So that's why I was very out of my comfort zone, because I learned if I express my anger, I'm going to upset people. So now I'm not safe. But expressing like all of our emotions, if expressed in a very intentional, healthy way, are amazing, right? Anger can be used to create change in our life, to set boundaries. Sadness can be used to get like much deserved support. On and on. I can go on about that. Another random tangent. Anyways, so I went towards the anger while I was in this guy's garage at a men's group, and I'm like screaming and yelling. It was so uncomfortable. And I was screaming, yelling, and then I was seeing the guys turn it up times 100, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so uncomfortable. So I turned it up times 100. I'm screaming, yelling in a very uncomfortable way, and I'm blah, 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 screaming. And all of a sudden, a champagne bottle is the only way I can explain it best. A champagne bottle popped, like the top pop, and tears just started pouring out automatically. I was uncontrollable. I was out of body experience. Like I was completely sober, but it felt like I was on drugs. I was just crying my eyes out. Like I hit like a landmine almost. And I was just crying my eyes out. Oh, 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 just crying, tears pouring down my face. I like just zoned out. I wasn't in that room anymore. I was like crying my eyes out. I later realized this was pain that I had been holding on to for 20 plus years. And I just was holding on to it. And then I took that first breath after letting go of all that pain. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just felt so much better. And then on top of that, the guy's like, any more? And I was like, yeah. So I cried some more. And then I felt so good. And then we went into the belief systems that were tied to that. So when she rejected me, it was tied to when I was rejected by everyone in middle school. It had nothing to do with her. And she was a gift. She was an absolute gift. She created a trigger to get to the stuff underneath that I wasn't processing. So I got into the belief system. I was like, no one likes me. I was like, well, does anyone like you? I'm like, yes. So that belief system's that software is no longer true. So then, men, raise your hand if you like Jeremy, and everyone raised their hand. And I was like, oh, whoa, so the belief's not true. Another belief system is my presence doesn't make a difference. And everyone like, men, raise your hand if Jeremy's presence here makes a difference. And the men in there were crying as well. They were so inspired by my work. And everyone's crying their eyes, oh, wow. And then I told myself, obviously in a mirror, that was kind of like a thing. I just really finally love, like I finally got a dose. People say just love yourself. I always thought it was so cheesy until I got a dose of it. I was like, oh, whoa. So I from then on out, I just loved myself more and I was more confident and rejection didn't bother me as much. So then if rejection doesn't bother me as much, what am I going to do? I'm going to put myself out there more, not even with dating, but in finances, health, wealth, relationships, friendships, everything. If I don't fear rejection, what's possible? And by processing that traumas and those belief systems that were causing me to be so scared of rejection, not be able to handle it, what was I stopping myself from doing? As I've traveled the world, I've been rejected so many times. Even last week, I still go through it. This girl is completely projecting and displacing her stuff on me, and I was rejected by this girl I met in Vietnam. And yes, back in the day when I was like really couldn't take rejection, I wouldn't put myself out there anymore. But now that I understand the concepts of behavior and why people act the way they do, I understand now she was just projecting, she was just displacing, and had nothing to do with me.
And that's the thing, right? Like often other people's behaviors and reactions are what they truly feel inside rather than having something to do with us. And first of all, thank you so much for being so open and sharing all these things, because I truly believe someone listening might resonate with all this and can get some learnings from it to apply into their own lives. And speaking of that, how do we manage to identify these belief systems that are holding us back without hitting that breaking point?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think start out by creating a map of if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do? Right? And what is your dream? And a lot of people don't even do this because one, they don't feel like they're worthy of their dream, and two, they're so scared of failure or rejection that don't even try. So the first step is getting clear on what does your ideal life look like? And then from there, what would it take to get there? Are your belief systems supporting you in getting those goals, that map, if that makes sense? And then from there, there's so many tools. And people just say, this is who I am. I think that's not accurate. Every human being is a collection of parts, and we're always practicing who we are. Every single day, every single moment. So what I realized is I was practicing the belief system of no one likes me, as I've said earlier. I was practicing the belief system of I'm not confident. So the first step is to go into what you want and then get some support. See a therapist, hire a coach, me, and to help you kind of reprogram those belief systems, right? And the hard part for me is like before I hired my own coach, I was like, I'm gonna do it myself, and I kept trying for many years to try to do it myself, and I just wasn't able to do it. And the reason is a lot of the belief systems are in your subconscious. They're in your body. They're not in your head. Like all the programmings, all the software, as I talked about earlier, is in your body. It's not in your head. So you can't process most of the deeper, intense wounds, which I told you I process in the garage. And I used to go to 6 hours of men's groups a week. Like 6 hours of men's groups a week. It was a lot, like 3 hours one day, 3 hours another day. I was so into it because I finally saw it was possible to love myself and go after my dreams. But yeah, if you're wanting to see like how to program it, like as I mentioned it, do that and get some support. It's brave to ask for support. For me personally, when I was going through a hard time in the past, I never wanted to be a burden on others. And that was another like old school belief system that was no longer serving me. I'm a burden on others, and a lot of people have that. You are not a burden on others ever. I'm going to say that out loud. You are never a burden. If you're sitting there and you're feeling like you're a burden or you can't do it, it's just a made up story you've created. Research shows people actually love helping others. Like it brings them so much joy and value to help other people. So by you not being open to support, you're not giving them that gift. That's something I've learned throughout the years of work. So yeah, kind of back to what I was saying. I like when I was going through a hard time in the past, I would just turn my phone off. People would call me and I would just not answer because I didn't want to be a burden, and let me just get my stuff. Let me get right before I talk to people. The right people will support you. Obviously, be intentional with the people you answer your phone for, but the right person is going to be really supportive. On top of that, not taking it personally, sometimes people won't be in a good place to hold space for you, and that's okay as well. Don't take it personally. Is so many aspects. I can go on and on talking about this.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Because these things are not simple. And as you well mentioned, the fact that we try to do and fix everything alone, it's often not leading to something helpful for us and as well to the results that we desire. And the fact that you mentioned that asking for help is such a powerful way to actually solve problems, not only faster, but also kind of the right way. Because if not, of course, we can do a lot of things by ourselves. We can identify things, we can fix things, but often we miss important aspects from the puzzle. And then we end up in a situation that we really are asking ourselves, why this still happens to me? Why I'm not fixed yet, and so on. And that asking for help together to stepping out of your comfort zone and
Mhm.
putting yourself out there like you did, doing all those challenges, basically challenging your beliefs and yeah, doing the uncomfortable. How that felt and how big of an impact that had in your change.
A lot. I think there was like, for example, I challenged myself to make a video with a stranger every day. There was moments where I was having an anxiety episode in my bed. I was like, oh, I really don't cry. I want to go outside and make a video with a stranger. And I did it. I was like, I committed. It's like what we commit to, right? So I committed to making a video every day, and then I'd do it, and it was amazing. I'd meet some amazing people, amazing connections. They'd invite me to really cool events. So I do, as I said, I help people like find purpose and make money with their purpose and everything. But I started as like a social confidence coach. People who had like social anxiety and were like that kind of stuff. Like I'd help people with social confidence. And one of the things I did is almost like social fitness. So it's a practice, right? So I was almost like a fitness instructor, but for confidence. I would take my clients out into public and I would like, give me 10 hellos. These are called social reps. Give me 10 hellos. And I'm like, oh, come on, give me 10. And then hello, 1, let's go. And it'd be grueling. It's almost like doing weights. 9 more, 2. And the person like look at them all like gross and dirty. And I'm like, no, it doesn't matter. Don't concentrate on them. It's about you. So people always concentrate on other people, but not concentrate on themselves. So then I'm like, all right, 9, hello, and 9, one more, baby, come on, like almost like a social, like a fitness instructor, as I said, one more, 10, let's go. And then they would do that. And then I would switch to compliments, something the person has control over. So I can be like, Gabe, I love the purple background. It's amazing. 1, give me 9 more. And then the person, like, we go on the streets and just give the compliments they have control over. The next one was 10 conversations, not concentrating on how good the conversation went, but concentrating on the conversation. Spoiler alert, every single client I worked with was so much more confident than when they started with me. Like one guy would hide in a corner at parties, and then he became the life of the party, and now he's married and happy. And a lot of people are so scared or so nervous to even put themselves out there to fail, they don't even try. So that was something that's changed my life. So, and I learned this by doing it. Obviously, I had very severe social anxiety, and one thing I kind of randomly did it's a exposure therapy. Is when before I'd make a video with a stranger for the day, as I talked about. I would challenge myself to just say hello to 10 strangers in a row before then make the video, just to get that like the exposure therapy out of the way, because our brains lie to us consistently, Gabe. Our brains love lying to us, and it doesn't have malintent. It doesn't have a negative intention. Our brains really care about, which is good, is us being alive. However, the way in which it helps us be alive is over exaggerated. Our brain loves it when we don't have confidence, because then we don't put ourselves out there and we don't get rejected or we're not in danger. But things have changed. We don't live in caves anymore, and our brains have not evolved as much as we think they have. So having that awareness, for me, my awareness is that my brain lies to me and I'm not upset about it. The best way to explain it is like our brains sometimes are like a toddler, in the sense of it's just trying to help and just doesn't know any better. So don't get angry when your brain's saying mean things, Just say, I know you're trying to help. I'm not listening though. So that changed my life. Two things I want to get into before we finish is the first thing I do is I have my clients give a name to their inner critic. Like give an actual name. So my inner critic is named Brad, and Brad's really mean. And Brad's just saying all mean things, whatever. And then he's just trying to keep me safe. And I'm creating a good relationship with Brad, but I'm not necessarily listening. He doesn't run the show. A lot of people let their inner critic run the show in their life, which just creates them an unhappy life. The second part is I have my clients name their super supporter. This is the part of you that believes in you 100% no matter what. And he's just your biggest fan. And my super supporter is named Doug. And Doug's, Jeremy, you're amazing. Let's go. You're on this podcast with Gabe. Oh my God, Gabe's amazing. I love Gabe. He's awesome. I'm so happy he's your friend. This and that. Just super positive. Right. And then you have the negative part, Brad. Oh, you're not in the best of moods today. Gabe's judging you. This podcast is not going to be good. No one's going to care, blah, blah, blah. Saying all these mean things. And I'm like, thanks for sharing. I'm not listening. And then there's Doug, who's just like, Jeremy, this is amazing. I'm so inspired by you. You had super severe social anxiety and depression. And now you've been traveling the world, helping other people overcome their social anxiety and go after their dreams. And you've given speeches in multiple countries. And dude, I'm so proud of you. Just all love. And it's creating a good relationship with both of these parts of ourselves. And that's just the beginning.
Yeah, that's one thing. And the other thing that you mentioned is that exposure therapy. And I can give you an example that you probably already know. When we met in Chiang Mai, we did that hike in the middle of the jungle, walking barefoot to the riverbed towards that waterfall. And I was looking at our friend, Ondra, how confident he was recording himself. And at that time, I was going through a coaching program, shout out to Dalton, in which I was trying to be on camera, literally being on camera to create content for my business and so on. And I asked Condra, like, how do you do it? It's so easy and natural for you. And you're so young, like, I cannot do it. And he invited me to Instagram Live. And at first I was like, heck no. Like, I live, not edited me, no way. And guess what? That Instagram Live, I enjoyed so much because eventually I said yes. I enjoyed so much. And that led to the confidence that I need through that exposure to the fear that, oh my God, people will judge me. I'm struggling to speak in English for a long period of time and so on. And all those negative thoughts and limited beliefs. But I did it. And that led to 70 plus at this point episodes on this podcast. Because
Wow.
I see doing this every single week, just having a friendly chat with a person that I know or I look up to, because these conversations are filling me with energy rather than draining me. And that led to this podcast. So exposure therapy really works. And the other thing that you mentioned with naming your inner critic and your supporter, it's a really powerful way to actually dealing with those negative thoughts because all of us have them. We cannot ignore them, but we can control them and we are in control at the end of the day. And speaking of that, like taking control of those negative thoughts, taking control and being friends with our inner critic, our supporter, how do you arrive at that level and how identify if the person that's talking is the critic or the supporter? Because even that some critics might seem just a critic might be that thing that you mentioned, someone trying to save not our life, but probably, I don't know, a poor decision that we are about to make or something that is leading our life on a different bad path. How do you identify which is good and which is bad?
Easy. You get clear on how you want your life to look and what your micro macro goals are in your life. And is that voice supporting you in getting closer to those micro macro goals, or is it supporting you in being further away? And if the answer is getting you closer to your micro macro goals, then it's your super supporter.
Let's get practical because I hear you, Jeremy, and I will try to be our listeners who probably think all sounds so easy, but at the end of the day, it's so hard to actually figure
It's
out
very hard.
what we actually want in this life. What is our dream and all that? Can you give us a practical exercise that we can all do in order to identify those?
Absolutely. The best one is called future journaling. And it's a very uncomfortable but very powerful challenge where you practice. Everyone's so scared to try because they want perfection. A lot of my clients that get in the space that they want to be perfect, so they don't even try. A lot of my clients want to make content, but they want it to be so perfect, so they don't even try. So practice. I don't say, instead of saying I'm not good at this, I'm not practiced at this. That's the first step. That's very practical, right? And then, so future journaling is when, for example, if I was doing it right now, my future journaling is I pretend like I'm in that space that I have a practice space of where you want to be. So if I'm sitting here right now and I'm journaling, I'd be like, "Yo, what's up, Gabe? So it's so amazing. I just bought my third property. I just bought a house in Europe. I just bought a house in Asia. I just opened up a health and wellness center in 5 countries. I just built a global community of 20 million people. It's so exciting. I'm about to give a speech." Like, journal as if you're there. I'm just about to give a speech. They're going to pay me $5 million to give a speech at this beautiful arena in Germany. I'm super excited. I'm going to be talking about my story, and I'm going to be inspiring people. I just got 5 million followers on Instagram. I'm celebrating that. So it's exhilarating. I just started a nonprofit. The nonprofit is helping people, blah, 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 blah. Like, talk in this journal entry as if you're there. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but at least open up that space. Open up that feeling of how it would feel. People are so scared, like, I need to do this and then I'll be happy. But no, you don't. You can feel how you're going to feel once you accomplish all the things now. And ironically, there's a higher chance of you getting those things. And then 2 years is a higher chance of you enjoying the journey of life, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And
perfect
I hope
sense.
that will help.
Because at the end of the day, envisioning ourselves in that situation in which we achieve our dream and live the life that we want increase exponentially the chances of actually happening. Of course, we still have to act and do the things that leads there, but starting with that to know what exactly we are aiming at rather than just, I don't know, I'm just going to work or I'm just starting a business because I want to make money and I want to travel, but I also want to live a nice life and so on. It's not really a dream. It's just something that society is telling us that this is the path that we should go on. And I don't know, go to college, get married, have kids, I don't know, buy a house and whatever. So, but when we envision the life that we truly want and express it in a way that is, we can almost feel it and put that on paper, because there is a specific connection between actually writing things down on paper rather than just typing them on a computer or just imagining them. And yeah, I think that's powerful exercise. And apart from that, what other action points you'll tell people to do once they have it on
Once
paper
I have
and practicing every single day? What else they should do?
set like goals for what you want your goals for 10 years from now. Write it down. Write down goals of what you want 5 years from now. Write down goals of what you want 3 years from now, 1 year from now, 6 months from now, 3 months from now. Create the segments of whatever sports you. Create goals of what you want 6 months from now, and start and just work your way up. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
It
perfect
comes
sense.
it comes down to commitment. It's your committing, and a lot of times commitment is very uncomfortable for people because then you're gonna have to change your mindset and change your beliefs, and it's gonna be very uncomfortable. So if for example, I committed. In my story, I committed to 30 days. So my goal was to not have to be socially confident and be more connected to the people around me. That's a goal. And then my commitment was I post a piece of content every day for 30 days straight. I've done a goal, as I've talked about, is make a video in person with a stranger every single day. I've set a commitment to interview celebrities on the red carpet in Hollywood, which I did, even though it was very uncomfortable and grueling, and I felt really amazing after, though. That was a commitment. The feeling is uncomfortable. So that was the goal. So that's my one thing you can do, obviously. The second piece that's very important is the first step in healing is creating in practicing a compassionate relationship to yourself.
That's
The
powerful.
first step in healing, the first step in healing is creating and practicing. I'm going to say it again because it's so important. Is creating and practicing a compassionate relationship with yourself. So as you're doing that, as you're going on a journey of your life, if you can have that, you're going to enjoy the journey more. And then two, you're going to be able to go from rejection or failure, from failure to failure, rejection to rejection, without loss of enthusiasm. I know it sounds cheesy, but it's true. Like, I literally did for fun. I made a song on the piano. I love doing improv. And I was messing around, and every now and then I'd quote unquote mess up. And I noticed that when I like didn't react when I messed up, I just went straight to what I was doing without reacting, I enjoyed it more.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if we are not the best friends to ourselves, who else can be? Like, we treat ourselves way worse sometimes than we treat others.
Mm.
And that's through, I don't know, working ourselves to the ground, burning out and so on, or don't give us enough time to do things that we enjoy and so on. And we need to be more, as you mentioned, compassionate to ourselves, because at the end of the day, we should put ourselves first. Then we take care of others. And it's a reason why in airplanes they say, before you put anyone else the mask, put the oxygen mask to yourself, then you help others. Because if you cannot help yourself, you cannot help others. And
Mm.
it all starts there, to being compassionate with yourself
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
seeing yourself as the best friend that you can be to.
Yeah, if it's true. Literally, the only person who will be there for you your entire life is you. You're the only one. So it might as well be a very beautiful relationship and connection. And most people don't have a good relationship to themselves. They're like, they allow other people, they're like, I can treat myself really terribly, but other people can treat me. I don't know. It's interesting. So literally my coaching program, the first 3 months is helping my clients connect with themselves in a very powerful way. And spoiler alert, if you create a very powerful connection to yourself, the external stuff just comes so easily and freely. Like, it's unreal. Like, when I first started working on taking care of me, so I like morning ritual, night ritual, like really taking care of me and just pampering myself, literally having accountability. So if I'm mean to myself, I will stop and say, no, we're not moving on until I apologize to, like, my inner critic apologizes. Have some accountability on self-treatment. And when I started working on myself, I started brushing my teeth. Sounds so like silly and so small, but it was so huge. I started brushing taking care of myself. I started brushing my teeth twice a day. I started taking 2 showers a day. I started, cleaning. I cleaned my room up. I like really just pampered me first. Especially when I first started, I hired my coach. I invested a bunch of money in my coaches. I don't want you to get new clients. I want you to take care of you. And I was like, what? I got to make my money back. And then she said, trust me. So I started pampering myself and really connecting to myself, and it took work. Like, it actually took work. And spoiler alert, I started taking care of myself and pampering myself and doing my morning ritual. I was running. I was doing my intentional positive affirmations. I was journaling. I was doing everything. I was dancing. And I actually started getting clients very easily and effortlessly. It was unreal. And I started being of service, because they always say, don't give from an empty cup. I was filling my cup so much that I was giving from an overflow.
Exactly. And the thing is that when we start ourselves, the confidence, it's also increasing. And if we take care of you, of course, you'll be much more confident in sales calls and talking with others and actually being able to serve others better rather than just, I don't know, being in a very low mood, not having the best day because you were literally, I don't know, sleep late, wake up late, and end up in a situation in which you are not at your best. But when you have a healthy routine, that's totally different. That's
Yeah.
changed things.
Well, also, yeah, everything from like your sales calls to relationships, from like friendships to even like dating, especially. If I'm in this energy of seeking and I need this person to fill my cup, they feel that. It doesn't feel good. The neediness doesn't feel good. It's understandable. But if I'm in a space of like, I'm amazing with just the way I am, and a relationship outside myself is just like the addition. Like I have the motor and the engine is running beautifully and perfectly. Maybe this person is just like the sunroof or something like the extra features. As yo, I'm amazing just the way I am. I would love in our society. It's interesting because our society is built. You know, having people say, "Is he's my other half? She's my other half. She's my other." That's not healthy if you think about it. You're basically calling yourself half a human being. Have you ever thought about that?
I think I stumbled upon this concept once back in the day, but this is a powerful reminder because indeed we don't need anyone else to complete ourselves. Once
And
we
if you
feel
think about,
complete,
yeah, sorry.
yeah,
If you think about it, my plus one, I'm a one, I'm a whole person just the way I am. And this person's my plus one. Now we have two people that are teammates as opposed to feeling this person being your other half. What's more, two or one? Two. Spoiler alert.
exactly. That's the thing, right? Because it all starts with us. It all starts with everything, like every healing, every fixing that we want to make in our lives. It should start with ourselves. Without, and speaking of others, of course, it's nice to have the support of others,
Mm,
but relying on others to fix things is not good, in my opinion, at least, because at the end of the day,
I agree.
you cannot rely on anyone. Of course, you ask for help, you ask for guidance, but who's putting the work? You. And you start to fix you by putting every single day another break, build that confidence, build that routines, and those leads to the new you that you envision in your journaling, in your dreams, and so on. And
Yeah. I mean,
speaking of
beautiful.
that, if
Beautiful.
someone is listening right now and they're like, I really want to chat with Jeremy, I really want to connect with him, even ask him to guide me in my life, where they can reach out to you in order to connect.
Yeah. My Instagram is Jeremy Talks to Strangers. So if you like support, I'd be honored. If you want to have a virtual coffee, I'd be honored to have it. And that is, yeah, Jeremy Talks to Strangers. This old phone has a low battery. And I would love to we jump on a call. We can see if it's right, see what kind of your main challenges are, what your main goals would be, and if you're really committed, then we can set up I can enter you into my program called the Fully Live Coaching Program, and it's a very interactive program, and I can definitely see how I can support. It is my biggest passion.
Yes, and I truly know that because I met with Jeremy so many times in our travelings, and every single time, I think it's one of the person that you always live life at fullest, like always happy, always smiling. And when you share your vulnerable moments with us in the beginning of this episode, it's like, how is that possible? That Jeremy that went through all those struggles now to be so happy to really enjoy life. Of course, there will be ups and downs, and we all have them. But 90% of the time, to be able to actually enjoy life and take advantage of this amazing time that you are on this earth, it's such an unbelievable thing to do.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
my pleasure. And I want to wrap up with a challenge for those listening. What they can do in less than 1 week in order to make a small progress in trying to identify their limiting beliefs.
Oof, that's a good one. The best way is to take some sort of action, and then once you take certain action towards your goals and dreams, you're going to normal have resistors and those old belief systems trying to stop you from growth. Like our brains are programmed to seek pleasure and avoid pain, and sometimes that pain is towards our goal. So it's, I always get into this tangents, but one challenge is to call 10 people on your phone. I know it sounds grueling. Or 10 friends. Go to the bottom of your text messages on your phone. Go to the very bottom and just text 10 people and be like, hey, just wanted to reach out and say hello and hope you've been well. Would love to catch up sometime. And just do that. Just start there.
Small but big leap. Because at the end of the day, we are always postponing those, catching up with an old friend, with a family member, and so on. And speaking of that, I'm so happy, Jeremy, that we reconnected after a while. And thank you so much for accepting to be on the episode. It was an absolute pleasure to chat with you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.